Hi, welcome back. Simon Lees here. I'm going to give you another guitar lesson, and I'm going to talk today about a subject that somebody asked me about recently, and I thought yeah, I'll do a little lesson on that. The topic is known as tapping, the technique, and it sounds a little bit like this, or you can use it for this kind of thing. Yeah, ish. Okay, so the idea is, I mean, you can tell the notes are pretty quick, and what I like about tapping, one of the reasons for using it really, is it allows you to play stuff much faster than if you were trying to pick the notes in the conventional way, you know. So I mean, if you can imagine if you had to sort of go and do that with your left hand and pick it. You know, it's doable, but it requires a lot more coordination and a lot more effort to get the notes to sound, you know. So the idea with tapping is you're using one of your fingers on your picking hand as an extra finger on your left hand in a way. And that finger actually, it hammers on and it pulls off as well. Now, the controversial thing is that I do it differently to the vast majority of guitarists, because I didn't learn it by watching Van Halen or Steve Vai or all the other guys. I learned it from a guy that I went to school with, and he learned it from his guitar teacher, who clearly wasn't a Van Halen fan either. And the difference is, when I do the pull-off part of the tapping sequence, I actually pull upwards, so you can see what my finger's doing there. What I like about that is I can use my thumb, I can use the side of my thumb to rest against the strings above the one that I'm playing, and that keeps them absolutely quiet. The other method, the popular one, people tend to rest the thumb on the edge of the fingerboard and use the palm of the hand to dampen the strings. I find that really odd, because it's difficult to know which part of your palm is touching which string. You're going to leave certain strings vulnerable, you know. I mean, what the traditional tapping technique is, they sort of push away, they push the opposite way. So I just find that really strange. If you've been tapping for a while and you do it that way and it works, great, keep doing it. But if you're new to it, I highly recommend this method. Plucking is kind of something that guitarists have been doing for years, you know. So the way that I do the pull-off is very similar to a pluck. You know, you can see, say if I was plucking the string, it's a natural thing to do. The other thing that's important to notice is that I'm holding my plectrum in the crook of my index finger. The way I've got it, it's kind of with the point of the plectrum pointing towards my second finger. So it's that way around, and it makes it very easy to get it back into playing position. You know, so I sort of use my second finger to sort of keep things steady and stop the plectrum falling out, and then I sort of rotate it a little bit. You have to make adjustments, but eventually it just sits in the crook of the middle section of my finger, and it's dead easy to get it there and back. You know, you can sort of practice it, so normal playing position, and then in the crook of your first finger. This is the other weird part of my tapping method compared to other people. I tend to favour my middle finger, you know, that one. That finger has got more strength compared, you know, when you compare it with my other fingers. It's not necessary to use a lot of strength when you do the hammer-on part of the tap. I just kind of get a kick out of it, you know. And it means that if I wanted to do it on an acoustic guitar, I could do it and get a decent amount of volume, you know. So I'm not just relying on the amp to make it sound loud. So yeah, that's the controversy dealt with. Let's look at the technique itself. Okay, to start off with, I've got my index finger on the thin E string on the 5th fret, and if you notice, this isn't just for tapping as well. This is for a lot of different techniques. I've got my index finger curled round like this, and I've got it running pretty much horizontal, so it lines up with the string. So from where I'm looking, I can see the whole of. I'll just turn that down a sec. That's what I can see. You know, the whole of my first finger pretty much is in front of the fingerboard. So if you find your fingers like that, it makes things kind of awkward, you know. So you want to be able to sort of push it forwards and be able to see like a triangle. So there's a kind of triangle shape there. Okay. All right, I might pull it back a little bit. But do as I say, not as I do. That's the thing. Yeah, it's actually kind of like that, you know. So it's not quite that far out, but it's sort of like that. Okay, that's just to prepare. That finger is gonna create the second note that you hear. The first note is generated by the tap, and I'm going to tap the string on the 10th fret. Now I'm using, as I mentioned before, I'm using the edge of my thumb to sit against all the other strings. See that it's not sort of floating, it's actually sitting against those strings. The pad of my thumb, the bottom part, is just sitting on top of the B string, which is the one above the one that I'm going to tap. So the tap itself, you can see where my thumb comes to. My tapping finger is actually extending past that. It's another reason I use my second finger. So it's long enough to get past the edge of my thumb to do this. So turn the volume back up. So I'm hitting the string fairly hard. I mean, if I did it a bit lighter, you can still hear it. That's the beauty of distortion. That's the one benefit you do get from having a bit of distortion on there. It's quite forgiving, you know, in that sense. So you hammer on the string, if you like. That's cool. That's known as the tap. When you hammer on with your right hand, it's a tap, or your picking hand, I should say. The following bit is the controversial bit. This is where I kind of pluck the string. So it's hammer on, or tap, and then pluck. So when you're tapping at this end of the neck, the frets are obviously closer together. It's a good idea to, when you hit the string, when you do the tap, make sure you leave a little gap on the right hand side of your finger, between your finger and the fret, or if you're left-handed, the opposite side. So when you tap on the string, you get a nice sharp sound. If you, I mean, obviously I've got fat fingers, so my finger is wider than the gap between those two frets. So if I sort of tap with my finger sort of in the middle of the two frets, I get a dull sound because part of my finger is actually on top of the fret. So you've got to sort of, when you're at this end of the neck, you've almost got to aim for the fret below to make sure that there's a little gap between the right hand side of your finger and the next fret. So when you tap on, you get that nice sharp sound, and you get more sustain as well if you want it. Okay, cool. So first finger in place, you tap on the 10th fret, do the pluck, and finally I'm using my third finger, and that's going to hammer on to the 8th fret. So part of the trick with this tapping pattern, there's lots of variations you can do, and you can make up your own. You know, it's but the thing I think with most tapping variations is you want to make sure that every note is the same length. You don't kind of pause anywhere, you know, or hesitate anywhere. So you don't want to hear this. When you're dealing with three notes like that, you've got to think in threes. So instead of going 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, you've got to go 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. So you're not pausing on the three. So maybe think of a word that's got three syllables in. Banana springs to mind. So you get a banana, 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 banana. That's a bad example. That's quite difficult to say. Think of a word that's got three syllables and just repeat it, you know, without stopping. That's the thing. Now, what I was doing earlier, just to sort of take this a little bit further, I was using the tried and tested pentatonic scale, minor pentatonic shape, which I call the G shape because you can superimpose a G shape chord over the top like this. Not that you'd want to, but yeah, if you play it normally, it's now. To sort of use that as I was doing at the start of this, when I was doing the tapping as well. Cut a long story short, you can tap on the 10th fret. So if you're doing A minor, which is where your first finger's on the 5th fret, you can do the tap on the 10th fret on all the strings except for the G. You have to just move down to the 9th fret when you get to the G, and then back up again to the 10th fret when you hit the D. So you get this cool effect. Now watch my thumb. Watch my thumb on this hand. So by the time I get to there, my thumb is where everybody else's thumb is on the top edge of the fingerboard. Now at this point, I should probably mention, you might already know this, but there are one or two famous guitarists who use the same technique that I'm using. Red Beach is one of them, and he's quite well known for his tapping. He's something of an expert. George Lynch is another guy, and Billy Sheehan, the famous shredding bass player. He's got no time for this sort of, you know, this thing. I just think it's crazy, man. But you know, all the big guys do it. So how can you argue with Steve Vai? You know what I mean? Okay. So that's it. Basically, I mean, say if you examples, other patterns that you could make up. I mean, when I first learnt this technique, I didn't really know how to go across the string. So what I used to do was just stick to one string, and I used to do it 12, 5, 8. So it'd be 12 with a tap, pull off to 5, and then hammer on the 8. And I used to just move my tapping finger up and down a little bit. And I thought, well, what if I stick another note in? Because it was all about how many notes you could get in the short space of time, you know. So I thought, well, I might be able to squeeze one in between my first finger and my little finger, you know. So, and I'll still move my tapping finger around, you know. That's you can kind of go up and down, you know, so you know, that sounds pretty cool. And the piece of resistance is because I'm tapping on the 12th fret, that means I can use the open string. So I can sort of... loads of cool things you can do. If you end up doing that, you know, and you want to put a vibrato on that note, don't do it with your tapping hand. That's just daft. That's just silly. Use your left hand. You know, it's all you're doing is stretching the string. You're not sort of your left hand can be anywhere along the string. Let's try it. You know, it doesn't matter. You can put your left hand anywhere you like. You can set it up for the next note. You know, sort of. Tapped harmonics is another thing. I should split these up. In fact, I will. Yeah. So I'll talk to you about tapped harmonics another time. But yeah, hopefully that's given you an idea about the tapping technique and some of the things that you can do with it. So good luck, have fun, and I'll see you on the next one. Thanks for watching.